Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I'm working on my fourth layout from my January collection Obsession kit. If you're not aware of what the papers are and the collection I'm using, go and check out the first video. So let's see what we're doing. I've decided that I'm going to use these papers here. So we've got this one, this, which is a B side of that. This marble print, and the B side is black, and I'm scrapbooking my gorgeous brother and sister-in-law. I have already fussy cut bits and pieces to use from these papers. So I had two other sheets and this one where I fussy cut the leaves out. I am also going to create a background paper of my own today. So I've got my stencil, which I did use in the last one. I'm going to try and use it again. That's from my Bashket. If you're not sure what a Bashket is, there's a video about that as well. I'm going to use these stencils here. So I've got one that's got borders that I'm going to give a go with. I've actually got two with borders, so we're going to use that. We're going to use these. We are going to use two floral stencils as well, and we are going to create a background on this fawny beige paper here. So that is the plan. So let's see how we do that. Today I'm going to use the lovely Distress Oxide inks. I love working with these, and you never have a failure with these. They always are successful, and if you do fail, it's easy to build up layers in between and bring it back to something that's usable. So stenciling is definitely a fun way to add interest to your papers. However, today we're going to incorporate, as well as stenciling, our smooshing mixed media technique. I'm going to lay down two colour bases on this, and I'm going to use these two colours, which is frayed burlap and tea dye. And then on top of that, I will use our base colours here that I selected earlier. First up, we're going to do our smooshing technique. So you just need any old plastic bag will do. And we're going to put our first layer of colour onto our cardstock. So what I'm going to do is, am I going to do that one or that one? No, I'm going to do this one. We're going to go tea dye first. And we're just going to smoosh it, stamp it, the whole pad onto the plastic. All right. Easy peasy. Next, you need to very quickly just spray some water on there, which is activating the ink. Distress oxides are activated by the addition of water. You'll see that the colours actually change and you get different tones happening. So we get some the ink almost separates in some cases. So you'll get some really dark areas and you'll get some light colours coming through as well. And I'm just smooshing it up, folding it in, mixing it up, and then we're going to use it like we would a stamp. I don't want those square edges on there from the ink blot, so I'm just making sure I get rid of those. So I just want to have this colour, but not with the geometric ink block look today. All right, here we go. So we're just going to stamp that literally onto our page. Now remember, if you've watched me before, you'll know that I'm working on a sloped drafting table desk. That's what I use for my work surface. So sometimes the ink will run down. I'm going to lift that up. And it's very light because I'm using a lighter colour over it. If there's areas that don't have enough ink or splatter on that you want, you can move it around and manipulate it where you want it to go. So it is very light on a light background, and that's what I want because I'm trying to build up depth of colour. So I'm going to dry that off before we add the next colour. Right, let's do our next colour. So the next colour was our frayed burlap. I'm not even going to clean this off. I'm just going to work straight on top of the plastic bag. And I'm stamping some more colour on. Not as much this time. Little less of the ink this time. But still we have to add our water. And we have to smoosh it up. So we're getting some nice puddles of ink and not those harsh lines. Ooh, it looks very muddy. Very muddy. Oh, I've got a harsh line up here, so I'm just getting rid of that. This one over there. This one there. All right, and then we're just flipping it over and we are stamping and smooshing the ink again on top of our surface. There we go. Now we've got a lovely age sort of look happening here, which is what I was after. So we pull that off, check it out. Now I want a little bit of splatter over here, so I'm moving some of the plastic bag around, so I'm getting a bit of colour right to the edges in some areas. Just making it a bit more interesting. Just adding some texture, or implied texture in this case, because we haven't got actual texture. And there we go. So we're going to dry that off again, and we'll be ready to stencil on top. Right, we've got our background to work on now with our smooshed oxide ink on there. I have, because I had a bit of warpage, I have actually ironed this. So if you need to do that, it's a simple process of just putting down some white paper or cardstock on your ironing board, protecting your ink surface with another piece of paper, and just ironing over the top and the back to get it more flat again. Okay, that's all I do. I do that all the time. I often, with my mixed media, I'm not using gesso. I just work straight onto whatever the cardstock or paper is, and if I do have warpage, then I just do the ironing technique. All right, now we are going to move forward and use our stencils. So remember, I've got these border stencils, I've got some floral print, and I've got this one which is called Arabia, which was in my Bashket. So how I'm going to work is I'm going to build up the layers of colour, and I think first off, given that I'm using Mowed Lawn, Prize Ribbon, Aged Mahogany and Pine Needles. Now they are all quite bright. They are also quite dark. The Mowed Lawn would be the lightest one that I'm using. And then these ones are mid. The Aged Mahogany is quite dark. And the Pine Needles is dark and bright as well. I'm going to start with Mowed Lawn. Now what I want to try and do is get this pattern through here. So when you use this part of the stencil, you're just getting these lines, which looks a bit like netting, as opposed to if I go over this side through here, I'm just going to get these solid shapes. It's not really what I'm after. I'm going to just use this strip here. So I just need my sponges. I just keep my sponges in a tray like this, and then I just pull out which one I want. It's not, doesn't look very organized, but it works fine for me. Just put on this one because I know that this is my Mowed Lawn. Here it is. Move that out of the way. Okay, now in my design that I'm thinking with my photo, I've only got a single photo, so I'm probably going to actually center it right in the middle. So I need to think about what where I stencil what's going to be seen. Often when you're doing this sort of thing, you may find that you do all this work and then you cover it all up and you hardly see any of it. So you do have to think a little bit strategically as to where and what you want to see when you're doing your stenciling. So I'm going to start in this top corner. You can, if you want, tape down your stencil with washi tape to hold it down. I'm not bothering for this. If I was using all this, I might do that, but for this particular bit I'm not, because I'm just using this little bit. I'm going to lift it and move it across, so I've just got some fine lines there. Now what I have to do to extend the design, because I want it to be wider than just this strip, is I just have to very carefully place my stencil back down here, matching it up with what I've already stenciled on there, and then I can keep going, move further with it. I'll bring it down here. And move it across a little bit more. Again, matching up what I've already stenciled. Now you can see some areas I've gone heavy with the ink and some areas I've kept it really light. And that is intentional. I want some areas to stand out more than others. Okay, we're moving it again. And I'm going to do some work down at the bottom corner here. So I want some of this pattern coming in on all four corners and edges of my paper. So I think this video is going to be a longer one and a little bit more chatty. So if you need to, jump ahead, zoom across. If you don't want to listen to me explaining what I'm doing, just jump forward. Bringing it down here. Always making sure I've got those lines matched. Going to go brighter at this end, so I'm applying more ink. Heavier ink, moving slowly across the page here. So I don't know what's happening where you're living, but here we have got the most beautiful sunshine happening. It's summertime in Australia. Having said that though, yesterday we had rain, which was just bizarre, and it was really cold, and I had to get my bed socks on and use my dressing gown last night because I was so cold. Strange weather we're having. Okay, I'm just going to move these out the way and bring this across slightly so I can work on this side. So you can see I'm just getting it really quite fine. Areas are brighter, areas are lighter. I'm not trying to make it really be the prominent pattern. I'm just trying to keep it nice and light and easy. I'm going to go heavier on this side. I do love using stencils. It's a fantastic way to completely alter and change the pattern. Now, because I'm working here, I have to flip this around to be able to match it up. So I come in again. I'm just going to find, just going to line it up. There we go. And I can bring it further this way. I'm going to bring it down this way a bit, so I'm moving my stencil down. Okay, that'll do on that corner, and then we're going to add some to this corner as well. When you're doing this type of thing, you really do need to think about balance and how it's going to look on your finished layout. So you can think about balance and symmetry. So sometimes you might want it to be exactly the same on both sides of your layout. Sometimes you just want to put hints of your repeated pattern. But you need to, you know, work out, are you going to have it asymmetrical? Are you going to have it radial? Your pattern and yours could be radial, so it could run around the page. I know most of this in the middle is going to be covered up, so I'm not worrying about that. I'm going to take this up here though a bit more and slightly darker. Now I still haven't cut off the strip at the top of this. There will be that 1/2 inch coming off there. Okay, so there's the first one. Nice. I like it. Stencil number 1. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is add one of our floral designs. I think I'm going with this one. And I think we will go with this frayed burlap and just put a hint of this floral on here before we come in with prize blue with the other floral. So still thinking about where our photo is going to be. We're having that photo in the center there. Now this is much what a designer does of scrapbook papers. So for instance, if you think about 49er market papers, it's very much this layer upon layer upon layer of pattern, design and color. And that is what we are creating here. So this stencil is from Kozar Craft. Does it have a name? It's just called Designer Template Botanical. It's got roses sort of happening on here. Okay, I think I'm going. Where do I want? It has got quite a big rose there and a big rose there. I think I'm going to go this way and pull some of that. Now I don't, you've got to be careful you don't use this edge here. Just remembering that bit's gonna, that strip there's gonna be cut off. Now I'm being careful that I'm not going to get a line at the edge of my design. So I'm only putting the ink on where I want the design to be. I'm not taking it right to the edge unless I want a straight edge. So on this edge, I have lined up the stencil with the straight edge, but up here, I've got to be careful that I don't get this edge look happening through here. So I'm just getting some of these roses and leaves on here. Once again, some areas are going to be darker and some areas are going to be lighter. So I'm emphasizing the 2 big flowers in the design, but then some areas I'm going a bit lighter, so it sort of blends into the paper. Let's have a look at how that's going. Oh yeah, there we go. It's just a hint of this design. If you feel you need to go darker, go back and put a bit more on. All right, so we've got some happening there. Beautiful. Now we're going to come down here. Now I'm going to flip it a bit. So that rose is now going to be based on this corner, and I'm lining it up this time with the edges. So I want this design to come right to the edge of the paper over here. Pulling it up again, look at that. So now if we're talking about symmetry, I've got a circle happening here, a radial pattern almost. So I'm turning my stencil on the diagonal because I want to get that circular thing happening. Going heavy on my roses and lighter around the leaves and the edges. I think that will do it. There we go. So now we've got a ring of roses. Time for our next stencil. Now what I'm thinking is, if I've got my photo through here, I'm going to, with this one, go asymmetrical. So I'm not going to put it in this corner. I'm going to just work on it, having bits of it in these corners. So for this first one, and I'm making sure with this one it's going off the page. So when you're viewing it, your eye, when you look at it, will be drawn and have the idea that the design would move on, will continue on. All right, where am I? That looks like prize blue. Pop that on there. Yes. Now prize blue is very strong, so we may need to go a little bit subtler, just lightly, because it can be a bit intense. Okay, now I'm thinking I might just turn it and add a little bit here as well. A little bit, building up our layers when we do this. So really what we're doing is we're creating our own pattern paper when we're doing this. So this is a good way that you can transform a paper that you perhaps aren't that keen on, or you can do what I'm doing and use a completely blank piece. For me, this collection has all these B-sides are blank, just a solid colour, so it gives you lots of opportunity to work on top of them. But you can, of course, do this similar thing on a background that's already in your paper collection. All right, there we go. Lovely. Love this blue. It's so nice. Okay, next we are going to start with our border stencils. Now, when we're using our border stencils, I don't want anything to move. So this time we will use some washi tape, and I'm going to actually tape down my paper I'm working on this time as well. Right, so I've got my paper stuck down with some masking tape just so we don't get anything moving. I've got my stencil stuck down with some masking tape as well. My idea is to draw in some of these colours because they are in my papers. So if we look at my papers and embellishments that I'm going to use, we've got this burgundy happening, and we've got some of this pine needle green within those. And I have, as I said before, I've fussy cut these out where you've got those colours. What I'm aiming for is it's a little bit vintage almost, and I think what I'm going to do is use the green first, and I'm going to only use some of these, not all of them. So I think I'm going to do that one. I think I'm going to do this one, and I think I'm going to do this one, and then we'll take that off, and then we'll use the other one and the other color and build up this section that has all these lovely borders on here. Okay, here we go. See how we go here. So I've just got to make sure that I'm not getting it right down here. I have to stay in the area. And I'm being light with some areas, dark with other areas. So I've started really dark on the end here, get the full strength of this ink, but then I'm having it fade off a bit. And I'm not taking it to the square edge. I don't want that effect. I want it to sort of start off really dark and fade across and not have a straight edge there. All right, now we're going to pull it up again. And we may use this one again. Oops. There we go. So you can see it's darker and then it's fading off. Darker and fading off. Okay. Pop the ink away. Now we're going with our next border stencil. So I'm going to just change that up. I haven't actually got one for mahogany or aged mahogany for some reason. Not sure why that is. Just going to make sure my paper is in position. And then I have to work out where this is going. I'm thinking is that I will put this one in here. Then I'll move it because I wanted to use that one as well. And that one. We'll see what happens. It's fun, isn't it? Because you never know what you're going to end up doing. Oh, where's my washi tape? Right, let's stencil. This is such a gorgeous colour. I'm just going to get it well inked up because I haven't. It's a new foam pad. Okay, so we're coming through with this one. Making sure that our ink is heavily applied here. Right, and I'm going to pick it up and we're going to move it. We've got that one there. Make sure your washi tape is down. Holding it in place, and I'm going through with this one now. Trying to get that feel of like old-fashioned wallpaper. All right, picking it up again and we're moving it again. So I'm bringing it down here. I really wanted these ones, but make sure you push down your washi tape so it's stuck down, so it's not going to move as you're working. This is very Art Deco, this one. Okay, and pick that up. So I've changed my mind. I think I'm going to put some blue through here, and I'm going to use this one. So what I've done, I just wiped it off around the edges so we don't pick up this aged mahogany when we stencil with it. So here I am doing something that's sort of Victorian sort of feel to it with lots of florals. Lovely. And then we need one through here. So, you know, I might try this. Will that fit? No, it's not enough space. Where's our other stencil? Will that fit in there? Yeah. Oh, this one might be better actually. It's a bit thinner and smaller, so we're just going to get rid of that ink off here. Get rid of the green so it doesn't mess up what we're doing. we go. Pretty clean. We're going to pop that in there. So who's been checking out all the new collections that are coming out recently? Surprisingly, there is quite a few that have this sort of muted color range, and sort of going back in time for many of us. Collections that were in the 80s, I would say. Sort of got that feel to it. I got these not long ago, Alt New Detail Blending Brushes, which may be perfect for this because we've got less space. Let's have a look how it goes. I haven't used them yet. Oh yes, much easier. Perfect, in fact. Beautiful. I like it. Oh, very nice. I don't know how it's going to clean up. And this was my concern when I bought them. There's 3 different sizes. They're not really a cheap item. I forget how much I paid for them. But quite good when you've got stencils that are smaller. That's our last border. So there's our base paper for our layout. Let me just pick that up and show you up close. Get rid of that. Alright, so let's have a look. So we've got our layered stamping. Remember, we smoosh the background, then we put in this fine mauve lawn green net, and you can see some over here. We put in some of this botanical stencil with the roses, and then on top of that we stenciled our plum flowers, and then we've come in with these borders. And that is what we are going to work on now with the embellishments and putting a photo on there. I think for that section I'll just speed it up. Just a note, this has cleaned up quite well. There's a slight tint of blue there, which will probably come out with more manipulation. That's just doing it in water. If I did it over the sink and you could rub it a bit more, I think you could probably get rid of all that colour. So these might be quite useful. Right, let's have a look at what we did. So there was the stenciling. I've fussy cut embellishments from the papers and I've layered those up. I've used these flowers and haven't used any of these for ages. They were in my Bashket. One tip with those, make sure you squish them down. Like I literally put my whole hand on there and really scrunch them down so they're a much flatter product. The other thing I used was this alphabet stickers, which is from Vicky Booten, to make my titles. This photo was from Christmas, so I put Merry and Bright in there as well. And I've also added some Nouveau drops and some splatters with just some white acrylic paint. Okay, I'm pretty happy with it. It's turned out quite well. Quite like the layering that's happening. And I managed to use that enormous flower that's on one of our papers. Hope you enjoyed that. I will show you all of the January layouts in my next video, where I introduce my collection of session choice for February.